that better?
John not coming?
John was not at Park and Rec. I'm not sure if he'll be rolling in here.
This is a quorum, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay.
No mayor tonight?
No mayor tonight. You gotta suffer with me. So the zero gives me the go ahead.
Hopefully here momentarily. Should be good to go.
Okay, call the City of Staples Council meeting to order, and we'll start with a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. And we'll go to approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Carried. Approval consent calendar, which is minutes of September 27th meeting and payment of bills.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carried. Okay. Presentation of 2021 audit and financial statement. By Dean.
Yep,
So
I'd
guys,
like to
can you read it
introduce
forward
Dean
there?
Berkland from Carlson SB. This is their first year doing the audit for the city of Staples. So, welcome.
Very good. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. And yeah, it's first time around. And so a lot of first time audits are always a little bit more work for both the auditor and the city. And but the audit went very well. And just like to thank the council and the management for the opportunity to do your audit, and hopefully many more in the future. So so with that, if everyone has a copy of the audit report, we'll just take a quick run through the audit, and it's just tidy 92 pages. So the best way to do it is just page by page. So we might skip a few. Like, how's that sound? So anyway, but we will start at page 1. We will start there. Page 1 is the first page of the auditor's report. And after we get done doing all of our audit steps, all of our procedures, all of the audit work, we have to issue a report. And this is just a quick note on the report. It's for the first time in 25 years, the format of this report is a little bit different. There was a new auditing standard that was implemented effective this year. So it might look the same, but if you look real close, it's quite different than the prior years. So similar content, but a different looking report. The auditors are probably most excited about it because it's different. So, but anyway, the auditor's report, the first couple paragraphs are really the kind of the nuts and bolts of the audit. And there's a little table there where it says a summary of opinions. And there's the opinion units are broken down there. There's 5 different units. And each one has a type of opinion. And in the auditing world, unmodified is that's the gold standard. That's kind of the Cadillac opinion. That's the clean opinion. It's an unmodified opinion. And that's, you can't get a better opinion than that. And as you can see, 4 out of 5 of the opinion units have an unmodified opinion. The first one, the governmental activities, does have a qualified opinion. And what that qualification is it's related to the Fire Relief Association. The auditing standards, or accounting standards, I should say, require that the Fire Relief Association have an audited, well, let me back up, an actuarial valuation in order to meet the standards. And the Fire Relief Association did not have that type of a valuation. So in that case, we issue a qualification because of that. And in our world, we audit quite a few cities, and some have it, and at least in our experience, more don't have it than do have it. Of course, it's costly, and that factors into those decisions. How does it impact a third-party user? You know, I can't speak for them, but I don't think it's really affects the real meaning or the real importance of the audit. It's certainly required, but I think the audit without it is, certainly meets the requirements of most of the users. So, okay, if you guys want to turn ahead to, we'll look at page 4 real quick. And there's a middle paragraph here. It's called supplementary information. And the city was subject to what we call single audit this year. And single audit is, it's a separate audit on top of what we call the financial statement audit. And that's the main report. Single audit is an audit of federal money. And if the city expends more than $750,000 in federal money, you're subject to single audit, as would be even a private company if they had federal money, anyone would be subject to that single audit. And it's a whole separate set of requirements, and we have to follow those requirements and do those steps and procedures. And in this particular paragraph, the very last sentence in that supplementary paragraph, it says, in our opinion, and the second to the last sentence there, the schedule of expenditures of federal awards are fairly stated. So again, just like the financial statement opinions, this would be a clean opinion. The audit of the federal money went fine, and but that's generally when you see single audit is when big projects are happening, especially water and sewer projects, and in this case, that's what triggered this single audit, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Gerald, but I think it's a sewer.
Wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
So we got 2 years in a row of single audit project.
Yeah, 2's enough, and but it goes with the territory of federal money. So, okay, if we won't spend a lot of time on numbers, but we will look at least one page, and that would be on page 20. Page 20 is this would be your governmental funds. The city has 2 types of funds, governmental funds and enterprise funds. Enterprise funds would be your water, sewer, the light fund, the ones that are run more like private businesses. Governmental funds are dependent on typically property taxes, state aids, public money. And the first column is the one we'll probably focus on a little bit here. It's the general fund. And the main number we'll look at is the very bottom where it says fund balance ending. And that's the ending fund balance for the general fund. And in some of the recommendations in the fund balance, what that should be, because we do get asked quite often what is adequate fund balance. And typically that number, the recommendations are anywhere from a minimum of about 20% of your total expenditures. And the total expenditures are up in the middle of the page there. And you guys are at about 44%. And so I think that fund balance is actually, very much in line with some of the recommendations by some of the people who do make those recommendations and organizations. So, so that, yeah, I just want to mention that. So, but again, as we mentioned earlier, we're not going to spend a lot of time with the numbers and that. So, so if we jump ahead to page, we'll look real quick at page 80. Page 80 is, we talked about the federal money, and this is a schedule of the federal money. And it's, without a single audit, you would not have this report, plus about 7 or 8 other pages of the report. It adds a fair amount to the report. But this does show where the money, where it comes from, what federal branch of the government, I guess, or department. And as we talked about earlier, it's mostly, sewer is often referred to as clean water in the grants and things like that, where drinking water would be drinking water towers and things like that. So anyway, but that's just a table of that federal money. So really, you guys were at 750 is the threshold. You were, over by, a fair amount. So, okay, if we turn to page, jump ahead to page 88. Page 88, we are required to look at the city's internal controls as part of our audit. That's a requirement. We have to understand the city's internal controls and document that as well. And we have just a few findings related to internal controls. The first one on page 88 is it's a segregation of duties. And segregation of duties, the barometer here is ideal segregation of duties. Ideally, every transaction that happens at the city should have at least 2 sets of eyes on it. And sometimes that's just, it's difficult sometimes with, staff where to have enough staff to segregate every duty. Example I use often is the person who gets the mail, the person that opens the mail, the person that records it in the books, that makes the bank deposit. All of those things ideally should be a separate person. And sometimes it's just that they overlap and you just, it's just hard to have that ideal segregation of duties. So, but what I will say is the city has very good internal controls. We do obtain that understanding, and the city, in fact, has very good controls, internal controls. But we are required to report that as the ideal segregation of duties is kind of the measurement. So the second item is on page 89, and this is it's preparation of financial statements and related footnotes. And basically, all of the financial statements, all the footnotes, the bulk of this report, if we put it together and put all the statements together, all the footnotes, we are required to report that as an internal control finding. Ideally, somebody else would be doing it and we would be auditing it. But in our world, this is a very, very common finding, just like the last one was. In our world, it's probably 95% of our clients have a similar finding. And again, it's a cost-benefit issue. If the city were to have that finding removed, you'd have to probably have another accountant come in and prepare the whole financial statements, or Tara would probably be working every weekend all year to, I mean, it's really a cost-benefit issue, and you guys depend on us to put this together, as do most of our clients. So, okay, the last item, or last finding, I should say, is on page 90. And this is material audit adjustments. And when we put together our government-wide financial statements, There's two statements that we need to make some adjustments that the city doesn't necessarily have to make. And they tend to be larger adjustments, but we need to make those in order to get the financial statements where they need to be. And again, in our world, it's a very common finding. And but when those adjustments are material, we are required to report that as a finding. So, okay, the last that kind of takes care of a run through the report. The last thing I have, it's a separately issued letter. It's the communication to those charged with governance. Does everyone have that letter? It's just a little 2-page letter. And it's separate. It's not in the report. It's a separately issued one. Okay, and that's okay. It's a required letter, and we have to issue this to the people in charge of governance, and that would be the city council. And there's just a few items that we'll run through real quick here that we're required to report on. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We did not have any difficulties in performing our audit. We are required to report that. The next item is corrected and uncorrected misstatements. As part of our audit, we always have audit adjustments, and at the end of the audit, we pass those along to the city, to Tara, and they get posted into the city books. So at the end of the process, the city records agree with the audit report. Disagreements with management, we did not have any disagreements with management. No, the city might have a different, no. We're required to report that, and that's no disagreements. We're just required to report that. If we did have disagreements, we'd have to report that as well. Management representations, at the end of the audit, we sent a draft copy of this report to the city to review, to approve. And after they do that, we have a representation letter that we're required to have, and management signs that. And we have that letter. It's dated August 2nd, and that's the date of all of the reports in this report. And the last item here is management consultations with other independent accountants. If we came across something where the city was talking to another auditor, talking to another accountant or auditor presumably, and maybe the city didn't like the way we were handling fixed assets, whatever it might be, and they call it opinion shopping, that you'd be looking for. Example might be that thing, the first item we talked about with the fire relief pension. If the city didn't like the way we were handling it and asked another firm if they could handle that differently, we call that opinion shopping. We're not aware of anything like that. We have to report that. If we were aware of it, we would have to report that as well. So that takes care of the run through the report and the governance letter, and just a couple other items. Again, the audit went very well. It was new for everyone. It was new for us in Tara's. There's some changes in the finance department, but it went well. And the one I'm going to mention too, I dealt mostly with Chuck, and when there's Chuck Mayer, when there's a change of auditor, protocol, typical, steps are the new auditor will contact the predecessor auditor, and there's arrangements made to look at their work papers to help us just accumulate information. And so I made a trip over to Staples and met with Chuck and some of the other people over there, and they could not have been any more helpful and just providing all the information that we needed, and it just was very, very helpful, and they were just super to work with. So I just wanted to pass that along, and With that, if there's any questions or comments about the audit, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Well, thank you, Dean.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, guys. There's probably some of you thinking that felt like 92 pages.
We will need a motion to accept the audit.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the audit?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? None. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carried. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dean.
Going to number 5, consider extending Valley View lot purchase price to spring 2023.
So I mentioned this at the end of our last meeting, but we had, on the ones that we did, I believe in June timeline, at that time, the city had 8 lots that were, that we had acquired out in Valley View as part of that whole Wadena County tax forfeiture. And 5 of those 8, the development group, the Staples Motley Development Group, purchased 3 of those. The Zeiton LLC purchased 2 of those. So there's 3 remaining out there. And as of 2 weeks ago, I had 2 people that were wanting to know, at this time on the calendar, there's no way, obviously, they could have met the October 15th deadline that we had in the purchase agreements. But they wanted to know if the council would consider extending that $10,000 per lot into next spring, in order to get improvements made on those other 3 lots. And, I indicated to them, and there's full disclosure, there's only 1 right now. The other one decided not to move forward with it, but there's still a gentleman out there who's interested in, buying one of the 3 remaining lots and building a house on it next spring. And so I had indicated what the arrangement was with the previous 2 groups and those 5 lots. We had that, October 15th deadline in there to have, I think it was $50,000 of improvements. Kind of throw it to the council, do we want to consider extending that into next spring with the hopes that, another 2 or 3 houses by, say June 15th or, pick a day, if they're in the ground and building.
I don't see any problem doing that myself.
I don't either. I think it's, good to have the development there, so.
Vacant a long time.
Mhm.
If we can move 1 more, 2 more,
So I would
maybe.
move.
We have
Need a
a
motion?
a marketing, something that maybe we could get a couple more people to buy, is there, we got it out there somewhere? Because these aren't the original 2 that were, because.
No, it's a different,
Right.
It's not Zeiton or
Right.
Staples Motley Housing Group.
Right,
It's
right,
an independent third party
right. So
that contacted us.
I was just
I
wondering.
think he learned about it through a contractor.
Okay. Or is it just kind of word of mouth, or is that out there somewhere? Word of mouth?
That was word of mouth. but-
Well, and I'm sure if they drive by it,
To get it out there on MLS in some fashion.
and if they drive by and see the development, that might spur more interest too.
Yeah, it's exciting to drive down Spruce Drive right now. There's a lot of activity out there, and new rooftops.
$10,000 is a pretty good deal on those lots, because, there's lots selling over on the south side for over 13. So it's a pretty good deal, so if somebody wants it, that'd probably be that's got all brand new infrastructure in it and everything, so.
Yeah, I think out of those 5 lots, about $1.5 million of, construction value going up there, so that's pretty positive.
So you need a motion?
If you would, with the date, and again, we're talking about the remaining three. We're not talking about the stuff that we're looking to do in Outlot A or the duplex lots or anything else. That'll be a separate discussion.
Do April 1st? Would that be something, or does that sound?
That'd be pretty tight for them.
No, I mean, April 1st, to extend the purchase, are we, or are we? Or
Extend
what
the
are-
50,000.
Yeah, to have substantial investment. You know,
Oh, okay.
and, you know, basically by the time you put in a foundation and the underground plumbing and pour a slab, you're at the 50,000 of that, and that's what we had put in there, so.
But how long do you have to purchase it? Would that be up to that? You couldn't have $50,000 of improvements if you had a date of,
Yeah, and we, on the other ones, we didn't have a deadline, a purchase deadline. We had a date where they had to have the improvements in the ground.
So they have to
So
purchase
if
it at
somebody
a,
purchase, if we say that, yeah, we're gonna do this, and next week somebody comes in and wants to enter into a purchase agreement for a lot, they still would have that same deadline. You can't not be able to build in the middle of winter. So there's
But
a spring deadline to make get the improvements in the ground, otherwise they would forfeit that purchase price. So whether it was, whether they bought it in November of this year or in February or March, I think that date.
I guess my point is that if you have let's just say, April 1st, if you buy it March 30th, you're not gonna have 50,000, so I mean, I guess the time to purchase, there should be a limit on when you can purchase it to get that date, right? The substantial
I guess I
improvement.
look at it, I don't care if they purchase it next week or in April, and I'm just gonna throw June 15th out because
Okay.
I don't know what spring we're gonna have, so let's say that they have to have, the footing, foundation and slab in by June 15th. If they can purchase it on May 15th and have that in on June 15th,
But how about if they purchase it June 14th?
there's no way they would meet that deadline because they wouldn't have the improvements.
that'd be the same boat as the guys that are asking now. They wanted to do it, but they couldn't buy it and get those in. So it's similar situation.
I guess to keep from chasing our tail down the road all time, and, I would think there'd be, but whatever, I guess it doesn't matter. I would think there'd be two dates. One that you could purchase it by, because if you don't purchase it by that date, there's no way that you're gonna get
Well,
completion, 50,000 completion.
sure, but I
On
think,
the other day.
I think they'll, they will realize that they wouldn't have time to meet that and then they would forfeit the purchase price. That's no different than the
Or
ones
they
that we
would-
did, with,
Or they would do like the guy's doing now, ask us to extend it. Right?
no,
Okay,
what this guy is asking, because,
I understand
the
why
October
he's asking.
15th deadline is 4 days from now. and
I
that's all.
understand why he's asking, yeah, it's fine.
The part that I like about it is that we'll have a deadline when they have to get moving on it and have the 50,000 spent. I don't like the idea of somebody purchasing it and then 2 years later, they maybe decide they might get around to it, because I don't think that enhances the buying power of those lots. So I like the way we have it now, and I can't imagine if somebody's really interested and want to buy it, that they wouldn't be cognizant of that and get moving on it. Because we have all experienced when there's delays, you think it's gonna get done this way, it will be done.
So is this the final time we're gonna kick the can down the road, or is this option available again sometime?
Well,
If the lots don't sell,
these three lots are not sold.
We had,
Yeah, the 5 are.
we had 2 that were interested, 2 out of 3. Now we only have 1, but we still have 1 out of 3 that are interested, but. So I wouldn't be in favor of continuing to do this over and over again, but this is the first time we've had this happen, so.
Yeah.
See
Well,
what,
and I think the other thing to take into consideration, by the time we get to next spring, I would anticipate having that replatting of some of those duplex, lots up there and, then, the council will have another decision to make down the road. What do we want to do as far as sale price and assessments on, those other, 6 or 7 lots, that will be created out of those duplex lots. And then, probably a little further down the road, what do we want to do with the outlot? I think I handed out a couple weeks ago one scenario. I'm waiting for another one from the surveyor. But, I think having conversations because we have interested buyers is probably a positive thing, so.
make a motion then to extend the Valley View lot purchase price to spring 2003, well, you want a date, May 15th or June 15th? June 15th?
Because if we have a really.
June 15th, 2023, do you need me to be any more specific about Valley View lots? Do I need to say the specific type of lot?
Well, if we want to talk specific lots, I would say lot 19, 21, and 22.
So I would consider extending the lot 19, 20, and 22? Is that what you said?
19, 21. and
19, 21, and 22 lots from the Valley View. That purchase price, extend that to June 15th of 2023.
I'll second that.
And just to be clear, that's the date that they have to have performed by,
Right.
to have that investment.
And
Well,
the 50. They have to improve it by $50,000.
okay. Because it's not the day they have to buy it by.
No, it's the day that they have to have
All right.
spent the 50,000.
You need that in the motion?
So what if they buy the lot on June 14th? Do we have to extend the time?
If they
They're
have,
not gonna have $50,000
No,
completed.
No,
then
they
they
won't buy
forfeit the
it.
$10,000.
They won't buy it then because
They-
Or they won't buy it.
they won't buy it because they
Alright.
got to do it in one, two.
now, they wouldn't be able to come to us and purchase that, I would think. I don't even know if you could do it a month before. So the day before would be, there would be no benefit of doing that unless they were to kind of ask us to extend again. Like you said, we'd be kicking the
Right.
can down the road. So if there's no interest in purchasing it all winter, all spring, then this extension was made under the benefit of those 2 interested buyers, but nobody bought on it, so the extension would be for nothing. Essentially for nothing if no one else comes forward, and then we'd have another decision to make, so.
Right, but if somebody comes to us in January.
Right.
We sell them the land in February, they get their contractor lined up, the contractor gets the sub lined up, the frost goes out, beginning of May, away they go.
And we probably wouldn't be doing this if we didn't have a couple of guys come up and ask, right? We wouldn't be extending the purchase price of it necessarily just for the heck of it. We probably are doing this because we had some interested buyers that asked us specifically to do that. Is that right?
Yes, if we would be willing to.
Right, if we'd be willing to, yeah. So I mean, that's sort of the reason that we're here.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that we get that one and maybe another one. Yeah. So,
And so if that other person that, excuse me, expressed an interest, all of a sudden decides he has an interest, we would continue that for them, right? To get those 3 lots sold.
I think that's open to whoever wants to purchase those 3 lots, right? We got,
With that.
it's only speaking about those 3, yeah.
Okay, ready to vote?
Was there a second?
I seconded
Okay.
it. Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consider approving agreement for grant writing services with Central Minnesota Housing Partnership for Small Cities Development Grant Program. That's a mouthful.
Melissa, you want to talk about that?
Be happy to. So over the last couple of years, we have considered applying to the state of Minnesota for the small cities, development program. And this is something that you had done, I want to say back in 2007 and again in 2013. That was just finalizing when I came on for the last one. So you have to give it a couple years in between before they'll fund you again. These dollars go towards single-family owner-occupied homes, commercial, whether it be multifamily or, and then rental properties, including multifamily or, single-family home rentals. You can pick and choose as a city which areas you think are have the most critical need, and based upon the amount of dollars that you would need. So that is what the program goes to. People can get grants. It's different for each of those categories. Single-family home owner occupied can get up to 100% of their project up to a certain dollar amount. I don't have that dollar amount right on the top of my head, but that is different from the last two times you had that program. To do this, it's a very intense grant application, and typically you either hire an engineering firm, or in this case, we have gone with Central Minnesota Housing Partnership in the past and have done a really great job for us. So this would be to contract with them to write the application to the state of Minnesota and be kind of an intermediary, help us market it, help us identify needs, priorities, and keep all of the HUD and housing requirements in order. So they would assist with making sure everything's reviewed properly, et cetera. And so they would be writing out this application for us and then would be working with us. They're asking for $2,250 to write the application. One area that $2,250 can actually come out of the repayment dollars from previous loans that was given out through the previous small cities dollars. So just kind of something to know, even though it maybe wasn't budgeted for, there is additional dollars that weren't in, that are not necessarily part of the budget anyways, that can actually qualify to pay for it. And those funds can be qualified to pay for very limited type, same or similar activities. So just know that those dollars can help offset this cost. This is something that most people, most cities, most counties, most places would not write on their own without hiring some sort of consultant. And so the request would be that you would approve the agreement to contract with Central Minnesota Housing Partnership to work with us on writing the grant to the state of Minnesota.
I'll move,
Is this the same group that worked with us for the mill townhomes?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
And that remodeled the Frontier townhomes as well. And they've done other projects in our area. They cover I want to say it's a 13 county region. Could be wrong, but.
They did the grant applications for both of our previous small cities grants that we received, so.
They actually have a person on staff that is pretty much all they do is write these grants, because there's a lot of windshield time with checking out all the locations, knowing and understanding the requirements, because there's some federal agencies, it's federal dollars that go down to the state, who then would pass them on to the communities. In some cases, larger communities, Minneapolis, we get their own designation. It would be called something different. In our situation, we have to apply to the state to get our funds through them. But they hire one staff person that writes the applications, works with the state to ensure that we're meeting all the requirements, and then also throughout that grant period, takes on that reporting as well. So they make sure that we're following through with all the requirements of those dollars as well in the long term too, which keeps us having clean audits.
Is there any potential we wouldn't get the grant, or?
I mean, there's always a chance of that, yeah, yes. You know,
Property designated that,
the identified,
Yeah, this is, it's kind of confusing with the whole mill, townhome, component of it and Frontier. This isn't, build a new multifamily project. It's, doing, basically commercial, rental and owner occupied rehabilitation. So, you know, somebody who owns a house in the target area, needs roof and windows, can't afford it, you know, there's income limits on it. The small cities grant would be a source.
and we've done that before,
twice.
both north and south side.
We did, well, primarily south side is where the owner occupied residential and the single family rental ones were. The commercial ones obviously have been target areaed along this corridor. And then, the rental ones, you know, it's different between the single family and the multifamily, but you have, you know, a lot of rental units above commercial, property that, you know, the embroidery studio got redone, the theater, building apartments up there were redone using small cities dollars. You know, I can't remember which one actually, but,
Okay.
so. So it's a way to get some, you know, get some flow through, federal dollars to help fix up properties and, you know,
So in our
provide some incentive to get that done.
In our conversations, we did identify some areas, since we have been talking a lot about the downtown area, we did want commercial included in there, especially now that we maybe have some new building owners and new property owners. So there may be some interest in taking advantage of these funds that maybe they weren't taken advantage of by the previous owners. So hopefully this could help them. We also included the commercial just above the downtown businesses. So that would be like I'll go with the Snap Fitness, where Snap Fitness used to be in the apartments up above, rather than only giving them the opportunity to fix up the main level of commercial. It would be an opportunity to apply to both programs, fix up that commercial above there, as well as their commercial property. Of course, there's an application process and all the different things that they have to follow, but you know, that the commercial multifamily rental would not include, say, I mean, obviously they're not going to be the ones, but the Mill or the Cardinal Pines, or, you know, any of those areas that are even off of that downtown designated area, which is essentially 6th through, I'm going to say it's 1st or 2nd, and then Highway 10 down to 3rd. It's kind of that rectangle that was identified for commercial rehab, and that's where the multifamily would be allowed. Single or owner occupied is a designated areas. This year, they have changed it so that if you're not getting enough interest in your primary designated area, you can shift to opening it in the next year or something like that after having those funds to the designation B area. So we actually think that we wanted to, and we're doing some windshield surveying as well on it. It's looking like the north side of 2nd would be that primary target area for the single families for target area A, as those have never had those single family dollars assessed or available to them for the fix-up funds in this case. And then having the south side of town, as we've done in the past, is designated area B. As we understand it, most often those funds are going to be opened up to that designated B area, but it's just giving that opportunity to one. The deed through this program likes to have a very targeted area so they can have the most impact for the amount of dollars that you're able to acquire. So if you can make a big difference in a neighborhood. And so that's kind of the plan at the moment. And then single-family homes single-family rental properties is citywide. So anybody in the city that owns a property, meeting some of the income guidelines that are designated through the state, they would be eligible to take advantage of those dollars. The only one that's 100% would be the single-family owner occupied homes. Otherwise, there's some different variations of it. It's 80%, forgivable loan and 20% owner equity, or, I think 70% and a 30%, so 70% forgivable loan and a 30% owner equity, that kind of process. So it's really, really good for the community, and it's something we have had in the past. It's been taken advantage of. Hopefully we can acquire it again and offer those dollars to our community again.
This is gonna be is this next year when the application?
Hopefully, if the state moves as fast as we would like them to. But it would be is a 23,
Yeah, funds
23.
available July 23, and then
yeah,
one after that.
Okay.
yeah. So it would be hopefully the summer of 23 that we would acquire those dollars, or actually be able to utilize them. But not likely, quite in the summertime. I'm guessing it could get pushed back a little bit later, but hopefully in time for everybody to take advantage of them in 23. If not, then it would be, early 24, or right away in 24, they could apply in the winter time and then start working in the spring, potentially. Just depends on the state process.
Okay, is there a motion? A motion?
I'll move approving agreement for grant writing services of Central Minnesota Housing Partnership for Small Cities Development Grant Program.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Consider first reading of ordinance 540, mobile food unit licensing.
In your packet, we handed this out here a couple weeks ago. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to read through it, but obviously, food trucks, mobile food units are becoming more and more popular. And so planning and zoning, what did we spend, Doug? Probably 6 months?
I suppose, yeah.
Somewhere around there, talking about, mobile food units, and looked at a number of different ordinances from other communities, and, how does, what do we think fits in the city of Staples, and ultimately came up with the document that you have in front of you. I won't go through it line by line, but, basically what it does is largely limits mobile food units into commercial or industrial areas. Some exceptions to that are, schools, churches, and parks that happen to be in residential zone property. We don't have a lot of that, but there's a little bit of it here and there. I know that the school, Sourcewell, different organizations have invited mobile food units onto their property for certain special events. So we don't want to preclude that from happening. This does not allow a mobile food unit to park alongside, on the side of the street downtown, or, across the street from an existing restaurant, can't be in the public road right away, with a few exceptions specifically related to parks that don't have parking lots. So, all mobile food units are required to have either a state license or a county license, depending on where they're operating and whether that licensing authority has been delegated or not. Todd County does all their own licensing. Wadena County has delegated their licensing to the state of Minnesota. So if people are operating both in Todd and Wadena County in the city of Staples, there would be the potential opportunity to have multiple licenses that they would need to do that, but, the, you know, the big thing, I think, you know, that was part of the discussion was just about, you know, do you allow mobile food units to be in residential neighborhoods, you know, parked on the street, things like that? Planning and Zoning Commission ultimately came to the conclusion that no, you know, their primary area of operation will likely be in the commercial area. You know, we've seen, you know, mobile food units at the liquor depot and the parking lot down there. At Sourcewell, the Staples Motley Schools has utilized food trucks. All of those types of things would still be allowed under this ordinance.
And there, the fee, I see the fee is just set, it will be arbitrarily set by the council.
Right, just like all of our other fees, the council sets the fee. And there was actually a fair amount of debate and discussion, you know, at planning and zoning related to fees. And ultimately, it's like, well, we're not deciding that anyway.
Yeah.
The council is going to do that.
Right.
So. But I don't know if, you know, there's any other questions related to this. Say I'm passed out a couple of weeks ago. Doug,
I just got one.
comments?
It says, and I don't recall this, but I'm sure we talked about it. Fire codes may be inspected by the city fire official prior to operation. Who is that? Fire official.
I suppose could be the fire chief or even potentially the building official, but I would say the fire chief for fire code stuff.
I was just curious. I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
who
think
we,
it's kind of delegated, you know, by the fire marshal's office. So. So I don't know if there's any other questions, comments, concerns. If not,
make a motion.
I think.
Doug made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carried.
We'll have this on the agenda again for the second reading.
Second reading.
It was, you know, it was a kind of a fun process going through planning and zoning. We don't always get public input, you know, on a lot of the stuff that we talk about, but there was good dialogue with, you know, a number of different people that, you know, have either used food trucks or are in that business. And so it was good. So lots of opportunity for input and for the commission to hear what other people's opinions are.
Okay, consider rescheduling November 8th council meeting due to general elections.
So the question that I have, and I don't know for sure if you're gonna be able to answer this, I'm gonna put you on the spot anyway. At what point do we think the election results will be available to be canvassed?
Probably by end of that week,
Like,
but we can start doing that, I think, right at the 12th. The following week, I believe.
yeah, 12th would be Saturday, so, you know,
11th.
yeah, you know, so 14th, 15th, you know, the following Monday or Tuesday.
I'm not available either of those days. I'm out of town. But you can certainly meet without me.
So haven't we in the past, I guess maybe I'm wrong here, but I thought in the past we just started the council meeting at 8:01
Well,
and then we had a special meeting for the canvas.
well, which we could do again.
I mean,
You know, I wasn't sure when, you know, at what point we could canvass the election, you know, so
Right.
instead of doing 2 meetings, if we could do 1, but, you know, we may not want to wait to do our regular council meeting till the following week. So we could do a 8:01 on an election night and then just do a special meeting the next week to canvass.
Is there a limit of when we have to have that canvas done? Is there?
Yes.
Okay, all right, all right, that's, like, we couldn't do it on the next council meeting, we have to do it before that.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, before 2 weeks, yeah, so.
So like Monday, the 14th would probably be the earliest that we would be able to canvass the election results. And that, you know, it's a quick meeting. I think you're right, we've done it, you know, before, just at lunch.
Sometimes we do it at noon and,
Yeah. So do we want to do a 8:01 council, regular council meeting, followed by a special meeting to canvass the election results on the 14th at noon?
and we work for me, I don't know
Sure.
about you.
Yeah, I think that
I won't be there.
I said she couldn't be there.
But for the regular council meeting, would,
Yeah, but I won't be there for the canvas.
yeah.
I would be back that Friday.
How about you, Doug?
Yep, that'll work.
For the, okay,
I think so.
versus the other. Will you do that?
Check with the mayor.
Is that in the form of a motion on both of those dates?
Yes.
Doug, get a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion? We all know what we're voting on? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, it's carried. Okay. Consider approval resolution 1884, appointing election judges for the 2022 general elections on November 8th, 2022.
There's one, Samantha Sweeney is in there, on there twice.
She's
Both yeah, she's gonna work double time.
Shift.
Should there be somebody else's name in there, or did it just get put in twice?
Good catch.
Definitely my choice.
15 total then?
You have enough election judges?
Yes, a few have volunteered to work all day. So I do a lot.
Can I move resolution 1884 then?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, carried. Committee reports, Economic Development Authority.
Okay, so we met on September 27th. There wasn't a whole lot of action to be taken at this meeting, but a lot of updates and information shared. The conditional, excuse me, the purchase agreement for the Farmers Union project out in the industrial park was postponed for another month. That'll be coming, we have come to an agreement on all details. It was attorneys going back and forth, kind of kept holding it up until we ran out of time again. So that has been finalized as of now, and we'll be going to the EDA on October at the next meeting. So that should be approved and finalized. The conditional use permit, as you are well aware, has been approved, and so that was kind of the other piece that was going through the processes. So once that's approved, they will own that, we'll go through the closing process, and we'll finalize all of those details and that work. The manufacturer's breakfast, if you have not signed up and you would like to just verbally let me know you'll be there, you won't have a name tag, but you're still welcome to attend. That is being held this Thursday at Timbers Restaurant in Staples here. We actually have right around 35 people registered right now. We're anticipating there'll be quite a few or a couple few that will attend without actually registering, including some city staff. So, Gerald.
I kind of thought if I was doing the welcome, that I wouldn't have to register.
Oh, you forgot, huh?
Katie was gracious enough to take the registrations in and create name tags and do printouts for it, so, through the Economic Alliance. And so as her taking those in, that was what she was basing all of her participants off of. So you won't have a name tag, but you'll get food. And you can write a name tag. So if there is anybody, I know Doug, I didn't see you on that list, but I know you'd expressed interest, so.
Yeah, I can still register.
You can just let me know, and I can just make sure that we have enough chairs and food for the additional. The registration, you are on there.
That tomorrow.
Wow, I think I had this list memorized almost.
Leave in 11, 12, what's tomorrow then?
Is it tomorrow?
Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
Please don't be tomorrow. Please don't be
I'm
tomorrow.
a day ahead of myself. I'm sorry. Did that before.
Thursday morning at 7 a.m. So we did have a really great turnout, so I'm really happy to see all the registrants that have come in, and the manufacturers that will also be attending seem pretty happy. I think if nothing else, it's food, right? Definitely drew them in. So if you can make it, please attend. We are applying to the Active Transportation Infrastructure Program. You guys had approved a resolution on this, went to Todd County. They had approved their resolution as well. That application is due this Friday. So we'll be finalizing, working with the school district currently to get some more data and statistics to include in the application that will hopefully strengthen it based upon the feedback I received from MnDOT on our previous application. That it was a good application, there was nothing wrong with it, they liked the project, but there were so many projects and applications that it came in that they felt, if there was any feedback they could give us, it would be a few more statistics and survey information from, as far as how many students will this benefit directly, et cetera. So working with the school to get some of those details to pull in there. But essentially the grant is almost completely written. So that will be getting submitted on Friday. And we have received quite a few letters of support from community and parents as well to include with that. See, the small cities, we've already talked about that. Working with Central Minnesota Housing Partnership to get that completed by that deadline. And then, we talked about the Outlot A, which you guys are also very familiar with, so I don't need to do that. And one really, really exciting update is the strategic plan language, written strategic plan, has been approved and is ready for design. That has taken since January, and so I'm pretty pumped that we're able to progress forward with getting that, so it will be a 23 to a 28 plan for the 5-year plan. Which is great. I mean, it was still good until 22 and anyway, so through the end of 22. So that'll be really good. Once that is designed, final approval through EDA, you'll each get a copy of it as well for your records. Let's see, downtown revitalization plan. I did share a few additional updates. Downtown revitalization plan is progressing forward. There's actually some, the Blandon Foundation, I just received late last week, Friday, I want to say it was, an invitation to apply. So originally, we had submitted a letter of intent to apply for $150,000 through the Blandon program, say about 5 months ago or so. And they were going to do a really quick turnaround, but they realized that they had a lot of interest from the communities that they serve. And they reevaluated their program and took all the letters of intent that they received. They upped the amount of money that they were putting into these programs from 1 million to 5 million, and then they created 3 sub-programs out of that. And so once you put in your letter of intent, then they request, they read through that, and if they think that it's a good project, they will ask you to apply for the full application process. And so we have been asked to apply through the whole application process. So those dollars would be for implementation of the downtown revitalization plan, and to do some really cool work around in our downtown area to, you know, lots of different ideas, but, you know, some bigger projects to really get that, that plan in the works. So we'll also be working on bringing together everybody to plan a community event to just kind of review all of the goals and strategies that we've come up with, and then finalize that planning process as well. It got held up because a lot of the same people that work on that are also on the chamber and doing railroad days. And so that's end of the summer between kids and families and activities. Just nobody could participate in the planning process for a few months there. So we're gonna pick it back up here and get through the end of it. So good things are happening in that area. The ARPA dollars, Gerald had mentioned Outlet A, we would be looking at, so as I'd mentioned before, Medina County through their ARPA dollars had allocated $135,000 to the city of Staples based upon population of the different cities within their county. With the population that we have that is in the Medina County side, they allocated 135 to us. They wanted it to be for, primarily with a few different requirements attached to it. They wanted it to be to create development within Medina counties, whether that be primarily they were focused on housing. And so we are going to be putting together a proposal to the county to utilize those ARPA dollars as part of the Outlet A development. So that can help pay for the engineering fees and a lot of the work that has to happen to get that plotted and ready to go for sale and get developed. So some of those dollars should be able to go towards that total project, which in communication with Medina County, they seem very interested in that. That would be a good use of those dollars. So hopefully we'll be allocated those dollars. That has to be done in their books by the end of the year, but they don't necessarily have to be spent by the end of the year by our books. Let's see. Other than that, I think that was the majority of what we talked about. I don't know if you have any questions around any of those projects.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
Public Works. Scott.
This is a lot of update information, so I won't go through everything, but if you got any questions, just shout them out. The Bright Energy Choices program allows our customers to purchase renewable energy credits. So if they want all of their electricity to be purchased carbon-free. The way that works is they pay us at 1/10 of a cent, which actually they pay us and then, or, you know, it passes through us to go to Missouri River, and Missouri River will buy them renewable energy certificates. 68% of the power we provide is already carbon-free, so they'd be paying it on 32% of their bill, which, as you can see, averages about 29 cents a month. But we were not able to offer the program before because we didn't have room on our utility bills, but now that we've switched so that we have the space, so we can offer that program. So it's, it really doesn't affect us any. It's a feel good for the customers that they get to be carbon-free if they want to. We were placed in the drought watch phase on September 15th. And all that is that we ask our customers to conserve water, not do any unnecessary water usage like watering lawns and things like that. Basically, it becomes obsolete now as nobody's has any use to be watering gardens and plants and flowers and things like that. So I haven't seen that we've gone out of it, but it just kind of takes care of itself during the colder months. We'll be flushing hydrants on October 12th, which is tomorrow. We usually do that throughout a week, so should finish next week. One thing I do want to note is that we did, the Department of Health was here to do what they call the Sanitary Survey. They do it every about 18 months. We didn't have any violations. Everything that they noted was like things like, you might want to consider this, you may want to consider that. That is a testament to our operators, being the fact that they are getting their samples done on time. their treatment levels are correct, and they do a good job of maintenance. So I think this speaks really highly of the operators. I was walked around with her, as well as Tony Evans. And she really, I mean, it's not like she was looking to nail us with anything, but I mean, it was hard for her to find hardly anything that stood out. So it was nice to be along on that, and really proud of the work that the guys do. And then the Missouri River area meeting is in Alexandria on the 26th. If anybody would like to go, let me know. It's a meeting where they just kind of provide general information on what's going on in, you know, on their side of the world, and how it'll affect us. They try to predict the future a little bit, talk a little bit of politics and things that might be coming down the road. But if anybody would like to go, let me know and I can get you signed up. And that's all I have, unless anybody's got any questions.
Any questions? Andy?
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. Open forum.
I forgot to mention, I was gonna squeeze it in, even though we didn't talk about it at the, on my update, but the Staples Motley Beyond Poverty is hosting a renters class on October 27th at 7 o'clock here. The presenter is the Todd County Attorney, John Lindeman. The invitations are going to be, this essentially is going to be going out to all renters, and all renters in primarily single family and above commercial properties, as invitation to come to this, as well as the landlord. So it's for both sides of the rental properties. So just kind of a FYI, that's happening. If you know anybody that should attend or would like to attend, or you yourself, feel free to attend.
Thank you. City Administrator report.
Just a couple of different things. One, the decorative fence areas along Fifth Street, over by the PD parking lot, and across the street between Las Corrales and the chamber office. Just want to give a shout out to our crews for going in and making those look presentable. So they dug everything out, put poly down, mulch. The plan for next summer on those is basically potted plants, you know, to be placed along there, similar to what they've done at Tower Pizza. A lot easier to maintain and keep watered and keep the weeds down. So, especially was it Travis and James that did the hard work out there. They worked hard on that. So it was a lot of actual shovel activity. So I want to make sure they know that we appreciate that.
Are those the two guys, those the mowers? No.
James is Parks and Community Center, and Travis is a part-time,
Okay.
you know, mower. So,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. And other duties as assigned. So
Nice.
I had the opportunity to present beginning of last week to REAM, which is the retired educators group here in town. So it was. He had to send a couple of them to the principal's office because they were misbehaving, and I told him, I said, it's kind of a role reversal here. You guys behave yourself. But you know, talked a lot about say the upcoming sales tax referendum, and then just also, you know, about the good stuff that's happening in Staples and has been happening, and it was kind of fun to present to that group. So. Other things this time of year, of course, you know, permits, you know, people wanting building permits, zoning permits for fences and sheds and all of that kind of stuff just kind of go crazy. Get a few cold mornings and people realize that they have a limited window to get some of this stuff done. So we're trying to crank those out and turn them around as quick as we can. And then just lastly, I want to thank Tara and her folks for the process of the audit, the timing of that, and the switch of auditors, and you know, switching financial software and all the rest of that. She didn't have any gray hair before that, but you see one now. So, but she was persistent in that effort, and want to just say thank you.
Thanks, Tara.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
That's all I have, unless there's questions.
Make motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried, meeting adjourned.